Kakadosh Boker or Masechet Batra Daf Yomi Daf Amud Aleph 85a1. We were speaking about the entire concept of Rav and Shmuel, that they both say that Kelyo Shel Adam Konelo, right? That means basically it's going to acquire for him Bechol Makom, right? In any place, even the Reshut of the Mocher, except for the Reshut Rabim. Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Shimon Lakish, both of them said Afilu Reshut Rabim, even in the Reshut Rabim. So Amar Rav Papa comes and he says, La plige, they're not arguing. He says, Kam b'reshut rabim, ve'kan b'simta. Right? We're talking about the reshut rabim, and we're talking about a simta. What does that mean? If it's reshut rabim mamash, so therefore you have no rights to put their kelim there, so it's not going to acquire it as well. But if it's going to be in a simta, that we did say that in simta you can leave your kelim there. I mean, you could put your kelim there, so therefore you're going to acquire it, right? And that's it. So he says, so 1 second. So why is it that they called it reshuta rabim? She'en reshuta yachid, which means that it's not reshuta yachid. It means the simta is not reshuta yachid. It's not like I could come and I could start using it as my private. It's not my private, but I have the rights to use it just like it's not. It's not a public. It's in between. And it's also logical. Rabbi Yochanan says Rabbi Yochanan, the kelim of a person, they're going to acquire to him anything within any place that he has the reshut to place it there. Okay, very good. Says the Gemara. Says Shema. Okay, fine. Arba midot b'mochrin. There's going to be 4 different ways to do with mechida, to do with mochrin. 4 midot. Okay, the first one is going to be, right, that for example, let's say we're talking about wine or oil. So ad shelo nitmalea mida lamocher, right? When we're coming and we're talking about that until it didn't fill up, right, the midah for it belongs to the mocher, and therefore the lokeach did not acquire it yet. Once it already finishes, now the lokeach is going to acquire it. So says the Gemara, one second, what are we talking about? That means I'm filling it up. Until it doesn't fill up, it belongs to the seller. Once it fills up, to the buyer. But one of these words, we're talking about that it's not shayach, not to the mocher and not to the lokeach, but rather to a third party. And therefore, as long as it didn't fill up, it's still lent to the seller to be moded, right? And the purchaser did not acquire it, and therefore you could retract. But once it actually finishes, which means that you already finished measuring it, now that's it. Right? You already did it. That's it. Right? It's already yours. Now it's the lokeach. Number 2, aval. What happens if the midah belonged to someone? You know, like this. They used to use, in the olden days, they first used to use like measuring, I don't know what you would call it exactly, let's say a jug or whatever it is. And then they used to pour it and they used to finish off the job. So I would come measure, put it in your bucket, put it in your jar, in your whatever it is, your pitcher, or whatever it is that you have that you're going to travel with your barrel. So he says, if right now, yes. So he says, if right now this midah belongs to one of them, whether it's the lokeach or the mocher, rishon kana. So therefore, if it belonged to the lokeach, so every little drop that goes in belongs to him. Why? Kinyan chatzer. And if it belongs to the mocher, right, nothing is going to be acquired to the lokeach, even if you filled it up completely, because it belongs to the lokeach. Okay? Fine. But one of these words, reshut rabim. In the reshut rabim, or in a chatzer that does not belong to both of them. Okay, aval reshut mocher. But if it's going to be reshut mocher, lo kanat shekbino, it's not going to be to kinyan until you do hagbah. Because if you remember, if I'm in your private property, it doesn't help me to do any type of a kinyan other than hagbah. Okay, so he says, or I'm going to do the meshicha, but I'm taking it from your property outside of your property. Right. The third case, alacha gimel. Reshut lokeach. What happens right now if everything is going to be in the reshut of the lokeach? So Kevin shekibel alav mocher kana lokeach. Right. The second that, right, which means that, for example, let's say I'm bringing you the fruits to your house. So that means the second that you come and you bring it and you accept the price, which means kibel alav, that okay, this is the price. Kana lokeach. Why? It's already in his reshut. And once it's already in his reshut, the second that they agree to a price, that's all that you need. You don't need anything else. Fine. So 1 minute. Okay. So he says, Dalet, right? Birshut, we have 4 cases, and then I could solve. Yeah? The 4th case is as follows, right? The 4th case is Birshut hala mufkadim etzlo. What does that mean? The perot, right, were of the mocher, but they were mufkadim in the reshut of a third party. Now what happens is, I want to come and I'll sell it. So imagine, right? I've got something in my house, right? And it belongs to Amichai. And Amichai, right? Obviously it's Birshuti, yeah? Oh. And Amichai, he wants to come and he wants to sell it. It's in my, I've got it, Amichai has it in my property, right? And Amichai wants to sell it. So now but it's in my property. It's in a third party's property. And I'm selling it now to the purchaser, right? So he comes and he says this. He says, Lo kana, the lokeach does not acquire it. He says, why? Because the reshut of the shomer is considered the reshut of the mocher. Meaning, the fact that Amichai kept it in my house, so therefore I'm a shomer, correct? Doesn't matter what type of a shomer, whether it's a shomer sachar, shomer chinam, doesn't matter. But right now it's in my house. The fact my house, so this property is considered his property. It's not considered no man's land or whatever it is. It's considered the mocher's property. So he comes and he says, right? He says, Achi kabel alav, until the guy comes and he agrees to a certain price, or he's going to come and he's going to rent out the property, right? And therefore, once he's going to rent out, for example, the place where the fruits are, so then he's going to acquire it like in Yan Chatzer. But we did learn though, when we're talking about the Reshut Rabim or a Chatzer that does not belong to both of them, right? He says, are we not talking about Mamash Reshut Rabim? That means we thought we were talking about Mamash Reshut Rabim. Right, because that's what we said. We said the Ktanimia Bishut Rabim u the Chatzer Shena Sheshnehem. So we're talking about Bishut Rabim. So says Gemara, no, we're talking about Simta, right? And therefore, since we're talking about the Simta is not the Rishut Rabim, but it's not Rishut Yechid. So says the Gemara, V'adumya the Chatzer Sheshnehem. Well, it's not Chatzer Sheshnehem. So he says, my Chatzer Sheshnehem. It's also the same thing. It doesn't belong to either or basically, but it belongs to both of them. Because remember, the Simta belongs to both people. Meaning, right? It's not my private property. I cannot come to you and go to the side of the Reshut Rabim and tell you this is my property. It's not your property. I apologize, right? But we both own it because it's something. It's not the public property. That's everyone's the owners, complete. But it belongs to everybody. Okay. Ba mine Rav Sheshat merav Huna. So ask Rav Sheshat from Rav Huna. Kelio shelokeach reshut mocher. Kana lokeach or lo. The kilim of the lokeach that are going to be placed in the reshut of the mocher. And the mocher comes and he puts the fruits inside of it. So imagine, I come and I have my bag. I put it into your property and you put the fruits in my bag. Do I acquire it or not? Because at the end of the day, it's chatzer. It's my chatzer. That bag belongs to me. Okay? So are you going to say yes or not? So Elmaleh says, we learned it. If a person comes and he throws a get to his wife and it fell in her bosom or in her basket, right? So therefore, she's megureshet. So mina stam, she's still in the property of the husband, whether it's in the house or the chatzer, and still we say that it does acquire it. So Elmaleh Rav Nachman says, what are you talking about? My time, what are you reasoning? He says, why are you coming and you're telling me from such a thing? He says, it's like, you're hitting somebody, 100 times on the head or whatever it is. He says, they pushed it away. They refuted this. Why did they refute this? Only if it's hanging on to her. Meaning it's not just stam that she has her purse on the table and the husband comes and puts it in her purse. If the purse is hanging on to her, right, it's hanging on her, and he puts it inside of her purse, so that's considered that he gave it to her. Okay, and Shakish says, it's kishura afavij. No, it's tied to her, even though it's not on her. Meaning, just pretend a leash. It's like it's tied to her, but it's not really on her. Meaning, she's not carrying it. Bava answered, it's between her legs. So I mean, she's like sitting down, and she has the basket right here in between her legs. So he says, the husband was selling baskets. Okay, and therefore, right, it was a chedem yuchad for all these selling. So therefore, he's not makpid if his wife has her own basket, but he's selling hundreds of baskets, so she has her own basket there. What's the big deal? Rabbi Yochanan comes and he says, "Makom cheka kanuila, makom kalata kanuila." No, her bosom or her basket is acquired to her. So Rava says, what's the reasoning of Rabbi Yochanan? If he she'en adam makpid on makom cheka v'lo makom kalata, person not makpid on that, and therefore for sure, right, it's going to be okay. By the way, do you think that this even applies nowadays? That means that I could come and I could tell you that I'm going to put a utensil, I'm going to put something in your property and you're going to put something inside. Do I acquire it or not? So food for thought. Yeah, I'm going exactly. The kupat staka. Kupat staka. The kupat staka is exactly that. If I give you a kupat staka, and right now you come and you start putting money inside of it, I acquired that money. Yeah. Even though, yeah. Yeah. Ela peshola meha, but we want to come, right? And we want to answer it from over here. So the Gemara comes and it says that basically a person is not going to be makpid, not on the makom chekar, not makom karatala. Peshola meha, but you want to bring a proof from here. Bishut mocher lo kana, ad she'gbiena ad she'yatzinu min. We said that if it's going to be the rishut or mocher, you're not going to acquire it until you're going to pick it up, you're going to take it out. Are we not talking about his own kelim? So it says, no, we're talking about the kelim of the mocher, meaning that he's giving you the bags. It's not your personal bags. So since he's giving you the bags, so therefore until you actually come and take it out of the reshut, it does not belong to you. Okay? Fine. So he says, so now if the reisha is talking about the kelim of the mocher, so therefore seifa not be kelim of the mocher. So therefore the seifa, right, is also going to be with the kelim of the mocher. So let's see the seifa. The seifa comes and it says, bishut lokeach, if it's going to be the reshut lokeach, the second he accepted the price, he acquires it. Now, if it's going to be talking about the kelim, right, of the mocher, so you the lokeach, right? He says, if we're talking about right now the kelim of the mocher, so why is it the lokeach is acquiring it? It's not his kelim. It has to be his kelim. So says the Gemara, no. The seifa is the kelim of the lokeach. So says the Gemara, right? Umay paska, right? He says, is it something that's mamash, mukhlat and everything that in the shuta the mocher, it's always going to be in the schora of the mocher and the shuta lokeach, it's always going to be the lokeach. So he says, stama deminta be mocher mane de mocher shchiche be lokeach man. It depends whose house you're in. You're in the house of the lokeach, mistama the utensils of the lokeach. Your house of the mocher, mistama of the utensils are of the mocher. Well, it's pashut. It's just basically just the stama the minta, right? The way that it is. So Amar Rava comes and he says, Tashma, we're going to try to bring now another proof. Mashah hamaravu po'alav yichnisan tok beto. Man, something was moshech, a hamor, and the po'alim, and he brings him inside of the house. Ben pasak at shelo madad, u ben madad at shelo pasak. Doesn't matter whether he came and he was pasak the mechir, and he didn't actually even measure it, or he measured it and he didn't give the mechir yet. That means they know the weight, but they just don't know the price. Shnehem yicholim lachzor b'hem. Both of them, they can retract. Okay? Fine, both of them can retract. So he says, Pirkan, however, if you actually started taking it off, right, when he brought it into his house, Pasakat Shalomadad, and the second that he did the psika, which means, that means even though he didn't come and he didn't measure it, but the second that there's a psak of the how much you're going to pay, and you can't retract. Because the second that he brought it into his house, and he already knew the price, doesn't matter. You're right, afterwards I'm going to find out. Right? I'm going to find out, meaning like this. I'm going to tell you, listen, it's $10 a pound. You took the meat, you brought it in the house. You don't know how many pounds it is, but the second that you know the price of the meat and you come and you took it into your house, that's it. You can't retract. Right? Because that's the way it is. So he says, madad, right? But if they only measured it, right, and they didn't give a set price, so then they could both retract. Right? He says, right? Now, why? Because you didn't agree to it. Meaning, imagine right now, okay, fine. You know that there's 10 pounds, but you don't know the price of the pound. If I'm going to tell you I'm charging you 20 instead of 10, you're going to tell me go fly a kite. But you knew it was already 10 pounds. Well, yeah, I knew the pounds. I didn't know the price. But if you tell me the price is $10, but you don't know how much it is, but it doesn't matter. But you already know the price. You're paying per pound, right? And therefore, it's a completely different halacha. Right? And then obviously we're going to try to refute this, right, tomorrow.